Yeah. 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 Oh, sorry. I didn't know the video started, people. I was practicing a villain voice. Anyways, on to more of my original stories. Do 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 do. Da 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 ba da ba. Da 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 do. Do 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 do. Where it's more than just Night Wolf in this part, even though most of it is Night Wolf, but not all of it, not all of it. So yeah, dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Do 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 ba da ba do 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 do. Do 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 do. Also, if I brought back any old villains, or if any of my old original villains are in a story, I will explain them, or at least how they are in the original universe, or universes that they came from. Because a while back, I used to make these stories, but I never uploaded them to YouTube, I don't think. I just made these stories, and I never uploaded them because they quickly got confusing. So, yeah. Dun 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 dun. La da dun 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 da bum 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 ba bum 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 ba bum bum ba bum bum ba bum 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 ba bum bum ba bum bum ba bum. What do I have in this song stuck in my head? The Pirate of the Caribbean theme. I'm trying to remember like where we last left off that, and I'm blanking on it. I'm blanking on it right now. So yeah, I'm blanking on this right now. Okay, yeah, it was this reporters, the villains list, and then yeah, so the last one was Night Wolf stories number 0, and then we had Ash Fall, So we're gonna start off with this here. Just a list of characters
Here is
so
the
far.
complete list of your characters so far, organized with real name and hero-villain name. If a character does not officially have one, it is marked unknown. Out of heroes, Silas Woodrow, Robin Hood, Max Jackson, Nightwolf, Ethan Calloway, Skyforge, Daniel Rivers, Waterman, Adrian Mist, Hal Ashford, Green Torch, Alan Holt, Green Torch, Original, Wutu, Jay Garnett, Lightning Bolt, Princess Elena Cross, Warrior, Ethan Mercer, Velocity, Tyler Navarro, Lightning Bug, Selim Virex, Skyforge, Birth Name, Nathan Nolan, Changeling, Martian Identity, Verdant Warden, The Root King, Nathaniel Crowley, The Doctor, Anti-Hero, Serial Killer with a Code, Doom Marine, Name Unknown, Unknown, Doom of Hell Protagonist, Dragon, Medieval Metahuman, Unknown from the Dragon Scales. Villains: Oliver Grimm, Playwright, Marcus Matthews, The Shadow Man, The Midnight Man, Victor Kane, Frostbite, Dacian Radu, Inferno, Lorenzo Vitali, The Purple Man, Dominic Falconer, Struthers, Ostrich, Victor Cade, Red Mask, Roman Vale, The Sovereign, Count Alexander Varelli, Vertaxis, Vivian Locke, Foxwoman, Victor Halden, no official alias yet, CEO villain, Darius Kane, Volt, Mark Mercer, werewolf, no official alias, Spencer Rogers, unknown, human trafficker, Great White Shark, real name unknown, King of the Sharks, Luminex Ravager, Specimen 001, Noctira Wraithwing, Specimen 002, Law Enforcement Government, Daniel Dan Mercer, Police Commissioner, formerly Lieutenant, Theodore Theo Granger, former Police Commissioner, deceased, Raymond Ray Kessler, detective, Matthew Jackson, unknown, Max's father, Martha Jackson, unknown, Max's mother, Bruce Parker, unknown, butler, reporters, civilians, Victoria Hale, reporter, Caleb Mercer, photographer, Grant Mercer, news reporter, Grace, last name unknown, news reporter, Martin Holloway, chief editor, Raheem Al-Zafir, leader of Crescent Dominion, Layla Al-Zafir unknown, trainer, Steve Grant, Wubby2 soldier, At Alien Cosmic, Selim Virex birth name, Skyforge, unnamed green ring alien, unknown, onlookers of the galaxy, species, collective cosmic beings, red Martian survivor, changeling. If you'd like next, I can. Organize them by city, Jackson, Evergreen, West Haven,
And
Coastal
this
City.
will explain the Green Torch stuff.
Got
here.
it, thanks for clarifying. Here's the corrected information for the Green Torches. Hashed Green Torch characters, Hal Ashford. Green Torch, main modern Green Torch, appears in Green Torch number 0, Marrow Point 3, Ember 1. Alan Holt, Green Torch, Woo 2 era, original Justice Syndicate member, appears in Green Torch number 2, Lightning Bolt number 1, and Warrior 0.2. So to confirm, Green Torch number 0 and Green Torch number 1 are Hal Ashford. Alan Holt only appears in the Wee 2 era stories you listed. If you'd like, I can now update the full master character list with this correction fully applied.
I didn't mean to hit a down button, but okay. And then we get Nightwolf number 0. Nightwolf Stories number 0.2, which is a continuation of the Volt storyline. Which explains, since, okay, in the first story he said, Nightwolf's name, so this explains how he don't remember his
Nightwolf
name.
Stories number 0.2. The wolf cave was quieter than usual. The hum of diagnostic equipment echoed softly against stone walls as Max Jackson stood on the central platform, his battered Nightwolf armor suspended in midair by mechanical arms. Sparks had scorched the chest plate. One gauntlet was cracked. The electrical surge from Volt had nearly fried the internal systems. Bruce moved calmly between consoles, glancing at the holographic readouts. Master Jackson, he said evenly, you took a direct voltage surge equivalent to a small transformer station. Max removed the cowl and ran a hand through his hair. He wasn't holding back. No, Bruce agreed, nor were you. Max stared at the damaged gauntlet. Volt, Darius Kane, had been more unstable than expected. Raw electricity in human form. The fight had ended when Nightwolf redirected Kane's energy into the Wolf Cave's emergency grounding grid. The surge had overloaded Kane's body, collapsing him into unconsciousness. Max had left him for the authorities. Now he wasn't so sure that had been the end of it. Across Jackson City, in a heavily monitored wing of Jackson General Hospital, Darius Kane opened his eyes. The lights flickered. Monitors beeped erratically as static danced across the ceiling like restless lightning searching for a storm cloud. A nurse rushed in. Sir, can you hear me? Darius blinked. His head throbbed. His skin tingled as though current crawled beneath it. Where am I? He rasped. You were found unconscious after an incident downtown, the nurse explained carefully. Do you remember what happened? Darius shut his eyes tight. There had been light, blue light, sparks, a dark figure with glowing green eyes in the night. I fought someone, he muttered. A wolf. The nurse exchanged a glance with a doctor standing in the doorway. Do you know who? The doctor asked. Darius frowned. His thoughts were foggy, fractured like shattered glass. No, I just remember claws, armor. He hit me with something. Light. No, not light. His breathing quickened as static crackled faintly around his fingertips. Sir, calm down. I remember fighting him, Darius growled, gripping the bed rails hard enough to bend metal slightly. But I don't know who he is. He didn't remember the cave. He didn't remember the name. He didn't remember Max Jackson being Nightwolf. But one memory burned clearly. Jackson Industries. The lab, the explosion, the surge ripping through him as systems overloaded. And Max Jackson's name printed across every wall in that building. His jaw clenched. Max Jackson, he whispered darkly. The lights above flickered violently. You know him? the doctor asked cautiously. Darius' eyes hardened. He owns the company, the equipment, the grid systems. His fingers sparked. If the safeguards failed, it was his responsibility. It hadn't been. The accident report, sealed within Jackson Industries, clearly showed Darius had overridden safety protocols, distracted and rushing a recalibration. The fault had been his own. But amnesia is selective, and anger is convenient. I lost everything, Darius hissed. My career, my body, my life. Electricity arced faintly between his palms. And that wolf, he said slowly, trying to piece the memory together. He tried to stop me. He fought me. He beat. His eyes narrowed. I don't know who he is, but I'll find him. Back in the wolf cave, Bruce looked up from a monitor. Hospital reports confirm that Darius Kane has regained consciousness. Max turned sharply. Condition? Stable, Bruce replied. Though there are reports of electrical disturbances. Max exhaled. Does he remember? Bruce hesitated. According to early evaluations, he remembers the altercation with Nightwolf. However, he tapped the screen, enlarging a transcript. He does not appear to know your identity. Max stood still for a moment. That's something, he said quietly. But, Bruce added carefully, he reportedly expressed strong hostility towards you personally. Max gave a dry laugh. Of course he did. Bruce folded his hands behind his back. Master Jackson, the accident at Jackson Industries was ruled self-inflicted negligence. I know, Max replied. He bypassed safety protocols. I read the report myself. Logic rarely soothes wounded pride. Max looked toward the armored suit as technicians began repairing the scorched plating. He doesn't know who I am under the mask, Max said thoughtfully. But he knows Nightwolf beat him. And he blames Max Jackson for his suffering, Bruce added. Which means, Max finished, Volt isn't done. Bruce gave a faint nod. A man who loses his memory may forget facts. He rarely forgets hatred. Max stared at the city skyline through the cave's concealed observation screen. Somewhere out there, Darius Kane was alive. Confused, angry, powerful. He remembered the fight. He remembered the wolf. But he didn't know the man beneath the mask. Max slid the cowl back onto his head, green lenses igniting in the dim cavern. Then I'll be ready, Nightwolf said quietly. Above the city, thunder rolled faintly, though the sky was clear. And somewhere in a hospital room, a faint pulse of electricity flickered along Darius Kane's fingertips as he whispered to himself, I'll make him pay. To be continued.
And now we have number 0, Nightwolf Stories number 0.3. And then we got some non-Nightwolf
Stories number 0.3. The wolf cave was alive with low mechanical hums and the glow of holographic displays reflecting off stone walls. Max Jackson stood before a massive digital board projecting the criminal network of Jackson City. Names, faces, status markers, green for incarcerated, red for active, gray for unknown. Bruce stood a respectful distance behind him, hands folded. You are cataloging them again, sir, Bruce observed. Patterns matter, Max replied. Criminal empires don't disappear, they evolve. He tapped the screen. A purple insignia rotated slowly. The Purple Gang, street-level chem runners, extortionists, industrial thieves. Their leader, Max said, zooming in on the file, Lorenzo Vitale, the Purple Man. A photograph appeared. Sharp features, violet-tinted glasses, calculated smile. Haven't seen him in months, Max continued. He vanished after the Blackwater chemical plant raid. Bruce nodded. It is possible he fled the city. Or he's waiting, Max said quietly. The image faded. Another file surfaced, red helmet. The mask rotated in holographic space, crimson, expressionless, cold. The mantle keeps resurfacing, Bruce said. It's not a person, Max replied. It's an identity, a shield. He paused, remembering the vat of chemicals, the fall, the splash. But not the one from that night, Max added. The one at Blackwater Chemical, he's dead. Or at least Max believed he was. The system shifted again. Feathers drifted across the screen. Dominic Falconer Struthers, Ostrich. Status incarcerated. Location, Ironcrest Penitentiary. The hologram displayed the Gilded Nest nightclub before dissolving into a mugshot. He underestimated the dark, Max said. As many do, Bruce replied. Next, a fragment of a red skull mask appeared. Victor Cade, red mask. Status incarcerated. Location, Ironcrest Penitentiary. The mob lost a symbol that night, Max said. Part of his mask is down here. His eyes flicked briefly toward the trophy case carved into the stone wall. Then a silver dagger rotated slowly. Foxwoman. Vivian Locke. Status, incarcerated. Location, Ironcrest Penitentiary. She thought chaos was control, Max said quietly. She was wrong. Bruce glanced at another alert flashing on the edge of the display. A dragon insignia glowed red. Red Dragon Mercenaries. Status, multiple arrests. Location, Jackson City Police Department. Pending transfer. They're being moved to Ironcrest tonight, Bruce informed him. Max nodded. Good, keep them centralized. The screen shifted again. A corporate logo appeared. Victor Halden, CEO, Halden Biodyne Systems. Status, incarcerated. Location, Ironcrest Penitentiary. He thought he could burn a city for profit, Max said, and walk away. He miscalculated, Bruce replied evenly. The board darkened slightly. Now the cases became more complicated. Shadows formed on the screen. Marcus Matthews. The Shadow Man, the Midnight Man. Status, committed. Location, Ravenshade Asylum. The footage replayed briefly. Marcus's shadow stretching unnaturally across brick walls before collapsing under the blaze of Nightwolf's light. Ravenshade is the only facility capable of suppressing his abilities, Bruce said. Light therapy, constant illumination. He wasn't always like that, Max muttered. Grief twisted him. The image shifted. Electricity sparked across the display. Volt, Darius Kane. Status, committed. Location, Ravenshade Asylum. Energy containment grid active. He remembers the fight, Bruce said carefully. But not me, Max replied. Correct. Max folded his arms. He hates Max Jackson. Yes. He doesn't know Max Jackson is Nightwolf. No. Bruce allowed a small pause. For now. The screen dimmed. Every major player locked away. The city quieter. But not safe. It was never safe. Max turned from the display and walked toward the far end of the cave where metal framing had been assembled over the past several nights. Suspended from the ceiling by cables was the skeleton of something sleek and angular. A reinforced carbon fiber wing frame, retractable stabilizers, compact propulsion boosters. Bruce followed him. You are certain about this design? Bruce asked. Max ran a gloved hand along the metal beam. It's time, he said. Grappling lines are limited. Rooftops only get you so far. The wings extended partially with a mechanical whir. His first vehicle, a hang glider, silent, maneuverable, capable of launching from the Wolf Cave's upper exit and gliding across Jackson City's skyline. I'll need better aerial mobility, Max continued. If Lorenzo resurfaces, if the dragons reorganize, if something worse arrives. Bruce studied the nearly finished craft. And what shall we call it? Max allowed himself the faintest smirk beneath the cowl. The Nightwing, he said. Bruce raised an eyebrow. Appropriate. Max stepped back, analyzing the structure. Every enemy I've put away, they're not trophies, he said quietly. They're reminders. Of what, sir? That crime doesn't end, it adapts. He looked toward the city beyond the stone walls. And I have to adapt faster. Above, unseen by most of the city, a hidden panel in the cliffside began to slide open as the hang glider's launch platform slowly extended outward into the night air. Jackson City glittered below. The hunt wasn't over. It was evolving. To be continued.
Then we get the Detective number 1. And also Root King number 1.
The Detective number 1, rain fell in thin silver lines across the city, turning the pavement into a mirror of distorted neon and broken reflections. Detective Roland Vance stood beneath a flickering street lamp, collar raised against the cold wind, eyes fixed on the abandoned church across the street. 3 disappearances in 2 weeks. No signs of forced entry, no bodies, no ransom, just symbols. The same spiral etched into walls, carved into wood, painted in something that forensics had confirmed was blood. Roland exhaled slowly. He had seen strange things before, things that didn't make it into official reports. Cases that got quietly transferred, files that vanished from evidence lockers. Strange stories, as some officers joked in hushed tones. But this one felt different. This one felt organized. He crossed the street, boots splashing in shallow puddles, and ducked under the yellow tape. The church had been condemned years ago after a fire. Now its stained glass windows were cracked, its doors warped, its pews rotting. And yet someone had been here. Recently. Roland pushed the door open. The hinges groaned like something alive. Inside, candles burned in careful circles along the floor, wax dripping in symmetrical lines. The spiral symbol was painted at the altar, larger than the others, intricate, almost beautiful. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness. "Hello?" he called, voice calm but firm. Silence. Then a faint whisper, not from a person, from the walls. Roland stiffened. He stepped forward slowly, scanning the room. His light caught something near the altar, robes, black robes folded neatly. 5 of them, 5 missing persons. He knelt beside the fabric, brushing it lightly with a gloved hand, still warm. They hadn't left willingly. A noise creaked above him. Balcony. Roland rose carefully and aimed his flashlight upward. A figure stood at the railing, tall, hooded, motionless. "You're trespassing," the figure said, voice layered as if multiple people spoke in unison. Roland didn't lower the light. "You're running a kidnapping operation. That's worse." The hooded head tilted slightly. "They weren't taken. Then where are they?" "They ascended." Roland didn't react outwardly, though his pulse quickened. "I'm going to need you to come down slowly," he said. The figure laughed softly. "You see only the surface, detective. We see the pattern beneath reality." The spiral symbol behind Roland began to glow faintly. His flashlight flickered. That again. Electronics malfunctioning around these scenes. He'd seen it before. "Step away from the altar," the figure warned. Roland glanced behind him. The spiral was pulsing now. Not paint, light. The candles flared higher all at once. The air grew thick, heavy like pressure before a storm. Roland drew his sidearm. "I don't care what you believe," he said evenly. "You don't get to make people disappear." The hooded figure lifted both hands. "They are not gone." The spiral erupted in blinding white. Roland shielded his eyes. For half a second he saw shapes. Not people. Not light. Something twisting behind reality itself. Watching. The light collapsed inward. The candles extinguished. The spiral was gone. Just bare stone. Roland blinked hard. The balcony was empty. The robes on the floor were cold now. And at the center of the altar lay something new. A small metal token engraved with the spiral. On the back, etched carefully, "You were seen." Roland picked it up slowly. His reflection in the metal looked distorted, almost stretched. He slipped the token into an evidence bag and holstered his weapon. Whatever this cult believed in, it wasn't just symbolism, and they knew he was looking. Outside, the rain intensified. Detective Roland Vance stepped back into the night, already building a mental profile. This wasn't over. It had just begun.
Okay, anyways, though, the next one is this one, the Root King. And then that one. So,
The Root
yeah.
King #1. They burned the Outer Grove first. Axes, diesel, fire. The verdant warden felt it before he saw it. Roots screamed in the language beneath soil. Sap recoiled. Fungal networks that had whispered for centuries suddenly fell silent, severed in seconds by steel teeth. Deep beneath the forest floor, where ancient roots braided together like arteries, the consciousness humans once called the Root King stirred fully awake. In Strange Stories #1, Part 1, he had watched. Now he would answer. Above ground, the logging operation moved with corporate efficiency. Floodlights cut through the darkness. Men in orange vests shouted over the roar of machines. A sign at the forest's edge read, Helios Resource Expansion Project. A foreman wiped sweat from his brow. Clear another 20 yards before dawn, he ordered. Company wants this section ready for survey. He never saw the ground move. Not at first. It began as a tremor, then a crack. Then the earth split open. Thick roots burst upward, coiling around the front loader's wheels. The machine groaned as it was lifted slightly off the ground. Workers stumbled back in panic. What the hell? Vines lashed across floodlights, shattering glass. Darkness swallowed the clearing. From the torn earth rose a towering shape, bark for armor, moss cascading from broad shoulders, antler-like branches crowning a head of living wood. Eyes like glowing amber sap burned beneath a canopy of leaves. The Root King had risen. You cut without asking, the voice echoed. Not from a mouth, but from everywhere at once. From the trees, the soil, the air itself. Men dropped their tools and ran. One worker froze, staring upward in disbelief. It's not real. A thick root wrapped gently around his ankle, not crushing, not violent, just firm. Leave, the forest commanded. The root released him. He ran. The machinery was dismantled in minutes, not destroyed, but entangled beyond use. Metal twisted by patient pressure. Fuel lines severed cleanly. No one was crushed. No one was killed. The Root King did not slaughter, he corrected. As silence returned to the grove, the massive form lowered slowly, bark creaking like old timbers settling. But this was no random act of defense. He had seen the permits. Seen the survey stakes driven deep into sacred ground where the oldest trees still stood. He extended his awareness outward, through root systems beneath highways, under foundations of distant suburbs, into city parks where single lonely trees clung to survival between concrete slabs. Humanity was spreading faster than the forest could retreat, and something else moved beneath their cities, something unnatural. In Strange Stories #1, Part 1, he had sensed corruption in the soil, an invasive presence feeding on decay, but not belonging to the cycle. Now it pulsed stronger, not industrial, not chemical, alive. The Root King stepped forward, each footfall sinking into earth and rising again as fresh grass. He moved deeper into the forest, toward the oldest section, the Heartwood. There, in a clearing untouched by machines, stood an ancient oak older than the city beyond the hills. The oak's roots intertwined with his own consciousness. Through it, he saw men in dark robes in an abandoned church miles away, a spiral symbol carved into wood, energy radiating outward in faint, unnatural waves, the same distortion he had sensed before. The forest shuddered. The cult did not worship nature. They twisted it. The Root King's branches tightened. You poison more than soil, the forest whispered. Leaves spiraled upward in a sudden wind that had no source. Animals fled the underbrush, not from him, but from what approached. From the far tree line, a black SUV idled silently. Its headlights remained off. Inside, a woman in a tailored suit watched the grove through night vision lenses. She spoke into a secure communicator. Subject confirmed. The entity is active. A pause. Yes. It defended the perimeter but did not pursue. Another pause. Helios will proceed with phase 2. She ended the call. Unseen by her, a thin root slid beneath the soil toward the vehicle. The forest had eyes. The Root King turned his burning gaze toward the distant hills where city lights shimmered faintly. Humans thought the woods were shrinking. They were wrong. The woods were watching. And now, they were awake. To be continued. Aiko number 1 main timeline. Aiko of the Silent Ridge, snow fell quietly over the mountains of Nagano. High above the nearest village where the forest grew thick and old, stood a narrow ridge wrapped in mist. The locals called it Shizuka no Mine, Silent Ridge. They believed spirits lived there. They were not wrong. A lone figure moved between the trees without disturbing a single branch. Aiko, black hair tied back, a short blade at her waist, a longer one strapped across her back. Her clothing was simple, dark training robes reinforced with light armor plates hidden beneath the fabric. She paused mid-step. A twig had snapped. Not loudly, but it had snapped. Her eyes narrowed. 3 men emerged from the trees below the ridge, dressed in tactical gear. Foreign-made rifles, heavy boots, hunters, but not for animals. One of them held a tablet displaying a thermal scan of the forest. "Targets here," he muttered in English. Heat signature confirmed. Aiko understood enough. She crouched low on a tree branch above them. The wind shifted. The men spread out, one step directly beneath her. In a blur, she dropped silently behind him and pressed the edge of her blade against his throat. She spoke calmly. "Koko wa anatan so janai?" This is not your place. Before he could shout, she struck a pressure point in his neck. He collapsed instantly. The second man turned at the sound of the body hitting snow. Too late. Aiko threw a small metal dart. It struck his wrist. He fired wildly into the air before she closed the distance and swept his legs out from under him. She placed her foot against his chest, blade hovering inches from his face. "Kiri nasai." The third man ran. She allowed it. Moments later, the forest fell silent again. Aiko stood still, listening. No more intruders. For now. Earlier that day, at the base of the mountain, an elderly man swept snow from the steps of a small shrine. He did not look up when Aiko approached. "You were seen," he said quietly. She knelt respectfully. "Senrin dake?" "They will send more." Aiko's expression did not change. The old man, Master Ichiro, had trained her since childhood, found wandering near the ridge with no memory of her parents, no records, no name beyond the one he gave her. Aiko, child of love. But there had always been something else. The Silent Ridge did not simply shelter her, it responded to her. When she meditated, wind circled. When she bled, roots shifted toward her. When she felt anger, the mountain trembled. Master Ichiro studied her carefully. The world below grows restless. Corporations dig too deep. Old things are waking. Aiko looked toward the tree line. She had felt it too. Not human, not machine. Something older than the ridge itself. Nightfall high on the ridge, Aiko sat cross-legged in meditation. Snowflakes slowed as they neared her, drifting in unnatural spirals. Her breathing deepened. The forest answered, whispers in rustling branches, a pulse beneath the earth, a memory not her own, fire, steel, screams in a language she did not recognize. Her eyes snapped open. Far below at the edge of the forest, bright construction lights flickered on. Bulldozers, survey stakes, a corporate logo printed on equipment cases. The same symbol found on the tablet one of the hunters carried. Aiko stood slowly. Her hand rested on the hilt of her blade. "Semwa tachi no so kiteiru?" The mountain hears my voice. Wind surged violently through the trees. Leaves spiraled upward in a sudden column of air. At the construction site below, workers paused as the ground rumbled slightly beneath their boots. One of them looked toward the ridge. What was that? High above them, a silhouette stood against the moonlight, still, watching. Aiko of the Silent Ridge was no longer just protecting a mountain. She was guarding something buried beneath it. And whatever the corporation was searching for, they were about to learn why the ridge was called Silent. Because those who threatened it rarely returned to speak. To be continued.
And now Green Torch number 1.2, which is a little break story. And then Robin Hood number 3.2, which is also another little break story from Big Action Stuff.
Green Torch number 1.2, Guardian of the Coast. Morning sunlight shimmered across the waves as fishing boats drifted into harbor. Seagulls circled above boardwalk shops, and the ocean breeze carried the scent of salt and gasoline. Hal stood at the edge of the pier, hoodie up, coffee in hand. He preferred mornings like this. Quiet. But quiet never lasted long in Seabridge City. Hal's phone buzzed with a police scanner alert. Armed robbery in progress. Bayfront Federal Bank. Suspects heavily armed. Hostages possible. Hal sighed. 5 minutes, he muttered. Can't even finish my coffee. He stepped behind a bait shop, raised his hand, and emerald fire erupted from his palm. The green torch ignited. Energy wrapped around him like living flame, forming a sleek suit of glowing green light. A blazing symbol burned at his chest. The torch-shaped aura flickered behind him as he lifted off the ground. He shot toward downtown like a comet. Bayfront, Federal Bank, sirens wailed. Police cars blocked the street. Civilians crouched behind vehicles. Inside the bank, 4 masked robbers shouted orders. 2 held assault rifles. 1 was stuffing cash into a duffel bag. The 4th gripped a terrified teller by the collar. No hero stuff, one of them yelled toward the shattered windows. Too late. The ceiling exploded in a shower of harmless green sparks as Green Torch descended through a glowing circular portal of light. He hovered a few feet above the marble floor. Okay, Hal said casually. Quick question. Did you guys not see the giant glowing guy flying overhead just now? Because that's usually your cue to surrender. 1 robber opened fire immediately. The bullets froze midair inches from Hal's chest, suspended in shimmering green energy. Hal tilted his head. Rude. He flicked his wrist. The bullets reversed direction, not toward the robbers, but upward, embedding harmlessly into the ceiling. Another robber fired wildly. Hal extended both hands, and a translucent emerald barrier expanded outward, shielding the hostages. The 3rd robber panicked and grabbed the teller tighter. Back off, or she! A construct formed instantly. A massive green foam hand. It gently but firmly plucked the robber off the ground, lifting him upside down like a misbehaving child. Threatening civilians? Hal said. Not very coastal hospitality. The remaining 2 tried to bolt for the side exit. Hal smirked. Not today. The floor beneath them transformed into thick, glowing sand, swallowing their boots up to the knees. They struggled as the energy hardened like concrete. Within 30 seconds, all 4 robbers were restrained in glowing cuffs. Police officers cautiously entered the bank. One of them nodded up at Hal. You're getting predictable, Torch. Hal shrugged midair. Yeah, well, I like the ocean breeze. Keeps the cape flowing. You don't have a cape. Hal looked behind him at the flickering torch aura, metaphorically. The hostages began applauding. Hal gave a small, awkward wave. He wasn't a global symbol like some heroes dreamed of being. He didn't patrol every city. He didn't chase headlines. He protected the coast, the docks, the beaches, the boardwalk. The skyline against the sea. Seabridge was his. As he floated back out through the broken ceiling, a news helicopter zoomed closer. Green Torch saves Bayfront Federal, again, the reporter announced excitedly. Hal rolled his eyes. Mainly coastal, he muttered to himself as he flew back toward the shoreline. Let the inland guys handle their own mess. But far beyond the horizon, out past the shipping lanes, deep beneath dark water, something ancient stirred at the flicker of emerald light across the waves, and it did not like fire. To be continued.
We both know you eat bugs like that for breakfast. I know some real surprises waiting for you.
And then Lightning Bug number 2.2.
Robin Hood number 3.2.
Another little bike story.
Part 1.
Collection.
Woodrow Industries. The top floor of Woodrow Industries overlooked the entire financial district. Silas Woodrow stood at the head of a long glass table while board members argued over quarterly numbers displayed on a massive screen. Shipping costs are up 6%. Expand overseas production. Cut local distribution. Silas adjusted his cufflinks calmly. No, he said evenly. We don't cut local distribution. A board member frowned. It's the most profitable option. Silas gave him a thin smile. It's the easiest option. There's a difference. The room went quiet. Woodrow Industries built advanced logistics software, secure transport vehicles, and specialty composite materials. Quiet contracts, smart contracts, legal contracts. Silas preferred control over chaos. Restructure the overseas branch instead, he continued, and move 10% of this quarter's net into community reinvestment. Another executive blinked. 10%? That's an investment, Silas corrected. He closed his tablet. Meeting adjourned. As the room cleared, his assistant approached. Sir, the St. Bartholomew Orphanage event is tonight. Silas' expression softened slightly. Make sure everything is perfect. Part 2, the charity gala. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above the grand ballroom. Cameras flashed. City officials mingled with donors. A banner read, Woodrow Industries Annual Benefit, supporting St. Bartholomew Orphanage. Silas stood at the podium in a tailored emerald-accented suit. Every child deserves opportunity, he said to the crowd. Not charity, opportunity. Applause filled the room. A large check was presented to the orphanage director. Smiles, photographs, headlines for tomorrow's paper. But Silas's eyes weren't on the cameras. They were on the children seated at a side table, laughing, eating too many desserts, whispering excitedly about the fancy room. For a brief moment, his polished corporate mask faded. Later, as the gala wound down, the orphanage director approached him privately. You don't just donate money, she said quietly. You visit. You ask about them. Silas gave a small nod. Someone should. Outside, as his car pulled away from the event, his phone vibrated. Police scanner app. Armed suspects fleeing First Harbor Bank. Shots fired. Silas looked out the window at the city skyline. Take the long route home, he told the driver, but he wouldn't be in the car much longer. Part 3, The Archer. Inside a private training wing hidden within his penthouse, Silas stood alone in a dimly lit room. Targets lined the far wall. He removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, picked up a bow custom built from carbon composite, designed in a Woodrow Industries lab. He drew, exhaled, released. Bullseye. He fired again without hesitation. Bullseye. Again. 3 arrows splitting the same center point. His voice was calm in the silence. Discipline, he murmured. Control. Another alert buzzed. The bank robbery had escalated. Silas walked to a hidden panel in the wall. It slid open, revealing a reinforced case. Inside, a forest green hood, armored leather gear, collapsible bow, and a quiver of specialized arrows. When he stepped onto the rooftop minutes later, he was no longer a CEO. He was Robin Hood. First Harbor Bank police cruisers boxed in the front entrance. Sirens echoed between buildings. 3 masked robbers burst from a side door carrying duffel bags, firing wildly behind them. A green-clad figure dropped silently from above, landing between them and their escape van. One robber skidded to a stop. You've got to be kidding me. Robin Hood didn't speak. An arrow flew. It struck the van's front tire, expanding instantly into a hardened foam compound. The vehicle tilted and collapsed onto its rim. Another arrow followed, this one bursting midair into a flash pellet that disoriented the gunmen firing toward officers. The third robber tried to take aim. Robin Hood rolled forward, sweeping his leg out and knocking the weapon aside before driving an armored elbow into the man's chest. The second robber raised his rifle again. An arrow pinned the weapon to the pavement through its trigger guard. Precise, non-lethal, controlled. Within seconds, all 3 were disarmed and restrained using reinforced zipline arrows that tightened automatically around their wrists. Police officers approached cautiously. One of them shook his head with a grin. You always show up when it's banks. Robin Hood turned slightly. A voice disguised behind the hood responded calmly. Some wealth deserves protection. He fired a grappling arrow upward. The line went taut, and he ascended the building's side in a blur of green. By the time officers reached the rooftop, he was gone. Back at the penthouse, Silas removed the hood and placed it carefully back in its case. On the news, commentators praised Woodrow Industries for its generosity at the orphanage gala. In a smaller headline beneath it, Robin Hood stops armed robbery. Silas turned off the television. 2 roles, 1 purpose. In boardrooms, he moved money. On rooftops, he moved justice. And no one would ever suspect the city's most generous businessman was also the outlaw watching from above. To be continued.
And now Lightning Bug number 2.2 and 2.3 as like cooldown stories. They all are. That's what these last ones have been. It says
Lightning Bug number 2. Awakening the Gene. Rain tapped steadily against the windows of Tyler's garage lab. Blueprints covered one wall. Circuit boards and prototype gloves lay scattered across a steel workbench. A flickering holographic screen displayed one name in bold letters, Mark Mercer. Status missing. Tyler, known to the city as Lightning Bug, leaned back in his chair, replaying security footage for the 10th time. The night Mark transformed. The chemical spill, the scream, the fur, the claws, the eyes. Everyone else called it a monster attack. Tyler called it a variable. He zoomed in on the footage frame by frame. Mark had been exposed to an experimental industrial compound during a warehouse accident. The media labeled it toxic contamination, but something about it didn't add up. Tyler tapped keys quickly. Okay, let's see what you really are, he muttered. He pulled up the chemicals composition data he'd hacked from the company servers. Compound VX-17 wasn't random. It wasn't radioactive. It wasn't mystical. It was a gene-reactive catalyst. Tyler's eyes widened. No way. He cross-referenced it with underground research papers about dormant metahuman genetics, rare strands of altered DNA present in less than 1% of the population. Most carriers never knew, because the gene was inactive, unless triggered. Tyler brought up Mark's old-school medical records. Nothing unusual. Except a flagged note from years ago, abnormal regenerative markers after a childhood injury. Doctors dismissed it as a lab error. Tyler leaned forward slowly. He overlaid the data. The chemical hadn't mutated Mark. It had activated something that was already there. Abandoned rail yard. Midnight lightning crackled softly around Tyler's gloves as he stepped through the fog-covered rail yard. Mark had been spotted here. Witnesses described a massive wolf-like figure moving between freight cars. Not attacking, hunting. Tyler swallowed. Mark? He called carefully. A low growl answered from the shadows. 2 glowing yellow eyes appeared. The werewolf stepped into the dim light, massive, muscular, covered in dark fur matted by rain. Claws scraped against metal tracks. But the eyes weren't fully animal. They were confused. Tyler kept his hands low. Electricity hummed softly around him, not as a weapon, but as protection. I know what happened, Tyler said calmly. The creature snarled but didn't charge. It wasn't the chemical, Tyler continued. Not exactly. It didn't turn you into this. He took a careful step closer. It woke something up. The werewolf's breathing slowed slightly. Tyler's mind raced. If he was right, this wasn't a curse. It wasn't an infection. It was a genetic awakening. Your metahuman gene, Tyler said. You were born with it, Mark. The spill just flipped the switch. The creature's claws dug into the gravel. For a moment, Tyler thought he saw recognition flicker in those glowing eyes. A flash of memory. A flicker of humanity. You're not a monster, Tyler said quietly. You're evolving. Suddenly, distant sirens pierced the night. Police, the werewolf's ears twitched. Instinct took over. He leapt backward onto a shipping container with terrifying agility. Wait, Tyler called, but the creature vanished into the darkness of the rail yard. Tyler exhaled slowly. He didn't chase, not tonight. Back in his lab hours later, he finalized his conclusion. Subject Mark Mercer. Condition, active, metahuman expression. Trigger, gene-reactive catalyst, team. Conclusion, transformation is biological, not mystical. Tyler stared at the screen. If that gene can be awakened, he murmured. How many more are out there? Lightning flickered faintly across his fingertips. For the first time since becoming Lightning Bug, Tyler realized the world wasn't just producing accidents. It was producing metas. And Mark Mercer wasn't the beginning. He was the proof. To be continued.
Good ones this time.
But next is, Lightning Bug number 2.3. And then we get back into Night Wolf with Night Wolf story number 1.
Lightning Bug number 2.3 built, not bought. Tyler's bedroom looked normal at first glance. Posters on the wall, a desk covered in textbooks, a gaming console under the TV, laundry basket in the corner. Completely average, completely intentional. His mom knocked lightly before opening the door. Homework done? Yeah, Tyler answered quickly, sliding a physics textbook in front of him. She smiled. Don't stay up too late. I won't. The door shut. Tyler waited, counted to 20. Then he locked it. The transformation of the room took less than 30 seconds. He pulled a specific book on his shelf, Advanced Circuit Theory. Click. A soft mechanical hum came from beneath his bed. The bed frame lifted slightly as hidden hydraulic supports engaged. The mattress tilted upward against the wall, revealing a compact but meticulously organized workstation underneath. LED strips flickered on. This was his real room. His lab, how it started. It began with a broken laptop at a school science fair. Tyler had always been good with electronics, better than good. When he first discovered he could generate bioelectricity from his own body, tiny sparks at first, like static shock that lingered too long, he thought he was imagining it, until he fried his phone charger just by picking it up. That's when curiosity replaced fear. He started small. Old radios from thrift stores, disassembled alarm clocks, salvaged circuit boards from curbside trash piles on bulk pickup days. He never stole. He repurposed. Allowance money went towards soldering tools instead of video games. Birthday cash bought insulated wiring. When he needed something specific, he biked across town to an electronics surplus shop and paid in crumpled bills. The hardest part wasn't building the tech. It was hiding it, the miniature lab. Tyler crouched beneath the raised bed platform and powered up his custom-built system. 3 compact monitors lined the back wall, mounted onto reinforced wood panels he'd installed himself. A 3D printer sat in the corner, assembled from a kit he bought piece by piece over a year. Storage bins labeled capacitors, microcontrollers, and polymer mesh were stacked neatly. He had even rerouted the room's outlet wiring through a modified surge protector system he designed himself. If his powers spiked unexpectedly, the excess charge diverted into insulated battery cells hidden inside his dresser drawers. He learned that lesson the hard way. Flashback. The first time he tried to measure his electrical output, he overloaded his house's breaker system and knocked out power for 3 blocks. His mom blamed the city grid. Tyler didn't correct her. Now, everything was contained, grounded, controlled. He slid into his rolling chair and flexed his fingers. Tiny arcs of electricity danced between them. "Okay," he muttered. "Let's upgrade the gauntlets." The lightning bug glove sat on the workbench, sleek, compact, built from layered polymer mesh and copper filament channels. Version 1 had nearly electrocuted him. Version 2 burned out during a rooftop chase. Version 3 worked, but Tyler wasn't done improving. He connected the gloves to his testing rig. A holographic display projected voltage readings in midair. Output stable at baseline, but I need better regulation when adrenaline spikes. He typed quickly, adjusting the microcapacitor thresholds. For a teenager, the lab was small, cramped, hidden under a bed, but it was brilliant because he built it. Every screw tightened by hand, every wire soldered after midnight, every blueprint drawn between math homework assignments. A police scanner app blinked quietly in the corner of one screen. Tyler glanced at it. Quiet night. Good. He leaned back in his chair and looked around his lab. No billionaire funding, no secret government facility, no mentor guiding him. Just him. A kid with a metahuman spark and a room that most people thought was ordinary. He powered down the monitors. The bed lowered back into place. The lab disappeared. Moments later, if anyone walked in, they'd see a teenager at his desk, half asleep over homework. But under the mattress, under the ordinary, lightning waited, and he built the storm himself. To be continued.
And now we go on to Nightwolf Stories number 1. After this come number 2.
Nightwolf Stories number 1. The Night at Blackwood. Then, Blackwood Chemical Plant rain hammered against rusted metal rooftops. Blackwood Chemical Plant had been abandoned for years, at least officially. Unofficially, it was Purple Gang territory. Nightwolf moved across the catwalks like a shadow given form. Below him, vats of unstable industrial chemicals bubbled under dim emergency lights. And in the center of it all stood Red Helmet, the gang's armored enforcer, crimson visor gleaming beneath flickering lights. "You should have stayed out of this mutt," Red Helmet growled, voice distorted through his mask. Nightwolf didn't answer. He lunged. The fight was brutal and fast. Metal clashing against reinforced gauntlets, sparks flying as Red Helmet swung a steel pipe with crushing force. Nightwolf ducked, countered, drove a fist into Red Helmet's chest plate. The catwalk railing cracked under their combined weight. Below them, a massive open chemical vat churned. Red Helmet charged recklessly. Nightwolf sidestepped. The armored figure stumbled. The railing gave way. For a split second, Red Helmet hung in the air. Then he fell. He hit the surface of the chemicals with a violent splash. The liquid hissed instantly, reacting against the metal armor. Steam and smoke erupted upward. The red visor flickered once, then disappeared beneath the bubbling surface. Nightwolf stared down into the vat. No movement, no resurfacing, only ripples fading into silence. The Purple Gang scattered that night, and Red Helmet was never seen again. Now, Present day rain again. Different night. Same city. Nightwolf stood on a rooftop overlooking Jackson City General Hospital. News had spread quickly through underworld channels. Lorenzo Vitale, the Purple Man, attacked. Not by a rival gang, not by Nightwolf, by someone new. Nightwolf slipped inside through a maintenance entrance and made his way silently through the upper corridors. 2 guards stood outside a private recovery room. Purple gang members. They never saw him move. One moment they were standing, the next they were unconscious on the floor. Nightwolf stepped inside. The room smelled of antiseptic and fear. Lorenzo Vitale lay in a hospital bed, his head wrapped almost entirely in bandages. Only one eye was visible through the wrappings. The once charismatic crime boss looked smaller now, weaker. Vitale's eye widened when he saw the dark silhouette at the end of his bed. "You?" Vitale rasped. Nightwolf's voice was low and controlled. "This wasn't me," Vitale swallowed. He came out of nowhere, laughing. His breathing quickened. White face, red grin, smelled like gasoline and circus candy. Nightwolf stepped closer. What did he want? Vitale's single visible eye trembled. He said he was taking the city back from boring villains, said fear needs to be funny again. Vitale's hand twitched weakly against the hospital sheet. He poured chemicals on me, burned through my mask, through my skin. Nightwolf's jaw tightened beneath his mask. Name. Vitale whispered it like a curse. Mad Jack. An abandoned carnival on the outskirts of the city flickered with broken neon lights. Music from an old carousel played slowly and off-key. Nightwolf landed silently atop the ticket booth. Below, a figure in a purple and red clown suit danced between shattered game stalls. White painted face, exaggerated red grin carved far too wide, green hair slicked back, a Mad Jack. He held a metal canister labeled with a Blackwood chemical insignia. So predictable, Mad Jack called out without turning around. Brooding rooftops, dramatic entrances. You really need new material, puppy. Nightwolf dropped down behind him. You attacked Vitale. Mad Jack spun theatrically, bowing. Attacked? No, I improved him. Purple was so last season. In a flash, Mad Jack hurled the chemical canister at the ground. Nightwolf reacted instantly, throwing a smoke dispersal capsule that neutralized the spill midair before it could spread. Mad Jack clapped gleefully. Oh, you've upgraded. He pulled a small remote from his pocket and pressed it. Explosions of colored smoke erupted across the carnival grounds. Fireworks shot into the sky, blindingly bright. Nightwolf charged through the haze, but Mad Jack was already moving, flipping over a railing with unsettling agility. You're too serious, Mad Jack shouted while retreating toward a tunnel of mirrors. This city needs a better class of nightmare. Nightwolf followed into the mirror maze, reflections fractured in every direction. Laughter echoed from all sides. Left, right, behind him, he struck one mirror, glass shattered. Empty. Another. Empty. A final explosion rocked the far end of the maze. By the time Nightwolf emerged into the night air, Mad Jack was gone. Only a single playing card remained pinned to a wooden post with a throwing knife. A joker. Scrawled across it in messy red ink, "Let's make this fun." Nightwolf crushed the card in his gloved hand. Red Helmet was gone. The Purple Man was scarred, and now a clown with chemical weapons was loose in Jackson City. From the rooftop, Nightwolf looked down at the city lights. This wasn't gang war, this was escalation. And Mad Jack wanted attention. He would get it. Just not the kind he was expecting. To be continued.
I'll just steal your hat. I'll just steal your hat. No, I'm just doing this with stop crying. Rose, Rose, about Squidgy. Why is SpongeBob story for me only? I didn't hate you the most. No, just go to your hat. First. Of course, well done, Terry. Hurry up. Straighten me up, Jack. Those are good. Did you see your girlfriend? Did you get some? How did you get some?
And now on to number 2. After this we get number 3.
Nightwolf Stories number 2. Enter Daydog. Jackson City had seen mobsters, mercenaries, metahumans, even a chemical-soaked clown. But tonight it saw something worse. Viral marketing. Downtown, 8:47 p.m., a crowd gathered in front of Jackson City Savings and Loan. A man in a bright golden dog suit stood on top of a police cruiser, striking heroic poses. The costume was ridiculous. Oversized foam paws, floppy ears, a red cape flowing behind him. Across his chest, a bright blue shirt with a bold symbol, DD. He pointed dramatically at a confused news camera. Citizens, fear not, for Daydog has arrived to liberate this bank from its corrupt bones. A reporter blinked. Sir, are you robbing the bank? Daydog gasped theatrically. Robbing? No, I'm redistributing unattended currency for justice. Behind him, 2 equally confused accomplices struggled to drag a duffel bag of cash toward a van. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Daydog raised a squeaky toy like a weapon. If anyone interferes, I shall unleash my solar bark. The squeaky toy squeaked. Silence. Then, a dark blur dropped from a nearby rooftop. Nightwolf landed between Daydog and the van. The crowd immediately began filming. Daydog tilted his oversized head. Oh, good. The edgy one showed up. Nightwolf stared at him. You have 30 seconds to surrender. Daydog clutched his chest dramatically. Threats from the city's grumpiest chew toy? Nightwolf moved first. In a flash, he disarmed one accomplice and pinned him against the cruiser. The second tried to run. Nightwolf swept his legs and secured him with reinforced restraints. Daydog clapped enthusiastically. Great teamwork, but you forgot about the star. He slammed his paw onto a belt buckle. The DD symbol on his chest began glowing obnoxiously bright. Nightwolf narrowed his eyes. Suddenly, high-intensity stadium lights, mounted on nearby rooftops, flickered on, bathing the entire street in blinding daylight-level illumination. The crowd gasped. Nightwolf shielded his eyes briefly. Daydog struck a heroic pose. Daydog draws power from the sun, or in this case, industrial lighting rented hourly. He hurled small spherical objects at the ground. They burst, not into smoke, but into glittering confetti and ear-piercing squeaking sounds. The sensory overload was absurd. Bright light, loud squeaks, confetti everywhere. Nightwolf pushed forward through the chaos, ignoring the spectacle. Daydog lunged with surprising agility, using retractable claw grips in his foam paws to vault onto a streetlight. You're no fun, Daydog shouted. You're supposed to monologue. Nightwolf grabbed the base of the pole and yanked. The streetlight bent, but before it snapped, a drone swooped in low from behind. Daydog grabbed onto it midair like a stunt performer catching a trapeze. The drone lifted him just high enough to clear the rooftops. He dangled upside down, cape fluttering. Until next time, night puppy, he called out. The dawn always returns. Nightwolf leapt to pursue, but the drone released a burst of blinding light directly into his path, forcing him to land back on the rooftop edge. By the time his vision cleared, the drone was gone. The lights powering the fake sun shut off all at once. Darkness returned to normal night. Police officers rushed in and secured the 2 accomplices. One officer looked at Nightwolf, deadpan. Please tell me that's not a recurring thing. Nightwolf said nothing. He stared at the skyline where the drone had vanished. Mad Jack used chemicals and chaos. Daydog used theatrics and tech. Different styles. Same pattern. Escalation. Someone was testing the city's limits. From a distant rooftop, unseen by anyone below, a figure watched through binoculars. A faint laugh echoed in the dark. Nightwolf disappeared into the shadows once more. Jackson City had always had criminals. Now it had performers, and the stage was getting crowded. To be continued.
Now on to number 3, and after this we have... number 4.
Nightwolf Stories number 3, Shadows Cross City. Jackson City Financial District. Cold winds swept between skyscrapers. Nightwolf crouched on a rooftop across from Jackson National Bank, binocular lenses narrowing over his eyes. Below, a black armored van rolled to a quiet stop near the service entrance. The insignia on the side door was unmistakable. A Red Dragon. Red Dragon mercenaries. Highly trained, military discipline, expensive gear. Not common street criminals. Nightwolf's jaw tightened. The side door of the van slid open. 4 mercenaries exited first. Tactical armor, suppressed rifles, coordinated movements. Then a 5th figure stepped out. Different. All black suit, sleek, tailored, flexible. No insignia. A smooth red visor covered his eyes. He moved with effortless precision, almost lazy confidence. Nightwolf recognized the posture, even if he'd never faced him before. Quick Shade, an assassin known in Evergreen City. Efficient, untraceable, expensive, and recently displaced. Rumor had it he'd grown tired of a certain green-clad archer disrupting his contracts. So he changed cities. Now he was here. Wrong choice. Outside the bank. 1 mercenary stayed behind, guarding the entrance. Nightwolf moved, silent, controlled. He descended along the building's shadowed edge, boots barely grazing the brick. The guard scanned the street lazily. He never saw the darkness detach from the wall behind him. Nightwolf wrapped an arm around the mercenary's throat, applying precise pressure to a nerve cluster. 3 seconds. The guard slumped unconscious. Nightwolf lowered him gently and secured him with reinforced restraints. Then he slipped inside through the service door. Inside, main lobby. The bank lights were dim. Security systems bypassed. 2 mercenaries worked on the vault with specialized drilling equipment. Another stood watch near the hostages. Bank employees forced to sit against the wall. Quick Shade stood near the center of the room, hands clasped behind his back like a supervisor inspecting construction. His red visor reflected the vault sparks. "You have 4 minutes," Quick Shade said calmly. "No deviations." A flicker of movement above. Nightwolf dropped from a ceiling beam. He hit the first mercenary hard, disarming the rifle and driving him into a marble pillar. Before the second could react, Nightwolf hurled a smoke capsule. The room filled with controlled darkness. But this wasn't chaos. Nightwolf could see. The mercenaries could not. He moved like a predator. 1 down with a sweep and elbow strike. Another slammed against the vault door. A third tried to fire blindly. Nightwolf disassembled the rifle mid-motion and struck him across the jaw. Within seconds, 3 Red Dragon mercenaries lay restrained. The smoke began to clear. Only 1 remained standing. Quick Shade. He hadn't moved. "Efficient," Quick Shade said evenly. "I was told Jackson City had a guardian." Nightwolf circled him. "You're not in Evergreen anymore." Quick Shade tilted his head slightly. Yes, Evergreen became inconvenient. Even through the mask, Nightwolf could hear the faint irritation in his voice. "A man in green with a bow," Quick Shade continued. "Persistent, disruptive." He adjusted his gloves. "I prefer fresh territory." He moved without warning, blindingly fast. A blade flashed from his sleeve. Nightwolf barely blocked in time, metal bracers sparking against steel. Quick Shade flowed into another strike, then another. Precise, surgical movements aimed for joints and weak points. This wasn't brute force. This was art. Nightwolf countered with controlled power, forcing Quick Shade backward with a heavy strike to the ribs. Quick Shade slid across the polished floor, but recovered instantly. He pressed a hidden control on his wrist. The overhead lights exploded in sparks. Darkness swallowed the room. But Nightwolf was built for the dark. Quick Shade wasn't trying to see. He was trying to leave. Nightwolf lunged forward and intercepted him near the side hallway, slamming him into the wall hard enough to crack tile. Quick Shade retaliated with a shock blade attachment that discharged electricity. Nightwolf absorbed part of the impact through his insulated armor, but staggered slightly. Quickshade attempted one final escape maneuver. Nightwolf caught his arm mid-strike, twisted, disarmed, then drove him face first into the marble floor. The red visor cracked down the center. Quickshade lay still. The remaining mercenaries groaned in restraints. Police sirens approached fast. Nightwolf stepped back as officers flooded the building. One officer recognized the dragon insignia. Red Dragon Mercs? That's federal level. Another stared down at the unconscious assassin. Is that Quickshade? Nightwolf said nothing. He turned toward the broken vault door, and then a piercing alarm suddenly erupted through the bank. Not the police alarm. Different. Deeper. Automated. A mechanical voice echoed from hidden speakers. Secondary breach detected. Nightwolf froze. This robbery hadn't been the main objective. The vault door's inner mechanism began unlocking automatically from the inside. Whatever Quickshade came for, it wasn't cash. Red warning lights flashed across the ceiling. Police shouted in confusion. Nightwolf looked at the sealed inner vault as heavy bolts began retracting. Something else was inside. Something worth hiring Red Dragon mercenaries for. The vault door slowly began to open. To be continued. Epilogue. Days later, headlines confirmed. Red Dragon mercenaries transferred to Ironcrest Penitentiary. Assassin known as Quickshade relocated to Ironcrest High Security Wing. Evergreen City's underworld breathed easier. Jackson City? Not so much, because whatever was inside that vault was still waiting.
Now this is a three-parter with a normal action type part, a sci-fi metahuman type part, and a sci-fi robot type part. And all three parts, and this is part 4. Next is number 5.
Nightwolf Stories number 4 Vaults, Mist, and Metal. Part 1, The Cheshire Intrusion. Red lights bathed the bank lobby as the inner vault door groaned open. Nightwolf moved cautiously down the corridor toward the source of the secondary alarm. Inside the vault chamber, safety deposit boxes lined the walls. And sitting casually on top of a stack of gold bars was a woman in a sleek purple bodysuit patterned with faint stripes. A long segmented tail accessory curled behind her. A stylized feline mask covered the upper half of her face, painted in a permanent, exaggerated grin. She swung her legs playfully. "Well," she purred, "you're not the assassin I ordered." Nightwolf stepped forward slowly. "Step away from the vault." She tilted her head. "Or what? You'll brood at me?"
Quickshade is, from my last remake storyline before this one, he's an assassin who teams up with the mercenaries to, well, rob a bank. But in the original story, the bank was at the same time also getting robbed by this character, the Cheshire Cat. And Red Mist is a character I made for an art project that I decided to add into my story. And the Brain, who is the third villain, who's the villain in part 3, is someone I made in my first timeline story. But I switched genders because they were male originally in that story. In this story, they are a female, because I didn't have that many female villains to begin with. So yeah.
The Cheshire Cat. At least that's what the underground forums had started calling her. Real name unknown. Specialty, infiltration, high-security thefts, psychological games. Nightwolf noticed the open inner vault case behind her, empty. "You weren't after the money," he said. She clapped lightly. "Good detective work, puppy." He lunged. She flipped backward off the gold stack with gymnastic precision, tossing a small silver sphere at his feet. It burst, not into smoke, but into a distortion field that bent light like warped glass. Multiple versions of her flickered around the room. Mirages. Nightwolf closed his eyes briefly, relying on sound instead of sight. A faint shift of air to his right, he struck. But she wasn't there. Her voice echoed from the vault doorway. "You're improving," she teased, "but you're still predictable." Nightwolf charged down the corridor after her. She sprinted toward the emergency stairwell, tail accessory whipping behind her. He was gaining. She reached the rooftop access door and kicked it open, and leapt without hesitation. Nightwolf followed to the edge, but instead of falling, a grappling line shot from her wrist, swinging her across to a neighboring building where a sleek black motorcycle waited. She blew him a kiss. "Tell the assassin I said hello at Ironcrest." Then she was gone. Nightwolf stared down at the empty street below. First Quickshade, now her. This wasn't random. Someone was assembling players. Part 2, The Red Mist. 2 nights later, an industrial district warehouse lay shrouded in crimson vapor. Inside, shadows moved unnaturally through thick red fog. Civilians had collapsed blocks away, choking on airborne particles. Nightwolf stood at the perimeter. A green arrow embedded itself into a nearby steel beam with a soft thunk. "I figured you'd call eventually," Robin Hood said, stepping from the shadows. Nightwolf didn't look at him. "Metahuman, airborne dispersal." Robin Hood nodded. "Let's not breathe too deeply." They entered together. The red mist thickened, swirling with unnatural intelligence. A distorted voice echoed from within it. "They made me like this." The vapor condensed briefly into a humanoid shape, glowing red eyes flickering inside the cloud. Nightwolf activated thermal filters in his mask. "Name," he demanded. The mist coalesced further, revealing flashes of a teenage boy within. "Ethan Navarro," the voice rasped. Robin Hood loosed a specialized arrow that released counteractive particulate foam, clearing sections of the fog. In the center of the warehouse stood a makeshift lab. Broken containment pods, scientific equipment, and a shattered canister labeled Extraterrestrial Particulate Sample. Project Ether Nightwolf scanned the data screens. "Alien dust," he muttered. Robin Hood read over his shoulder. "They experimented on him." Footsteps echoed from deeper inside the warehouse. A scientist lay unconscious near a terminal, lab coat stained red from the airborne reaction. The logs showed forced exposure trials. Ethan hadn't volunteered. The mist surged violently toward them. Nightwolf charged through it, using compressed air canisters from his belt to disrupt the density of the cloud. Robin Hood fired electrified net arrows, grounding portions of the vapor as it tried to reform. "Ethan," Nightwolf shouted, "focus." The mist flickered. "You're not a weapon," Nightwolf continued. "They used you." The red cloud hesitated. Robin Hood fired one final arrow into the lab's ventilation control system, reversing airflow and funneling the majority of the mist into a reinforced containment chamber. Nightwolf tackled the partially reformed Ethan as the remaining vapor condensed back into his physical body. The teenager collapsed, weak but solid. Authorities later classified Ethan Navarro, now dubbed Red Mist, as a metahuman with volatile but controllable abilities. Unlike Scar or Marcus Matthews, who required Ravenshade Asylum for psychological and power stabilization, Nightwolf made a different call. "He's dangerous," an officer argued. "He was made dangerous," Nightwolf corrected. "But containment was necessary." Ethan Navarro was transferred to Ironcrest Penitentiary, high-security metahuman wing. The same wing housing, Quickshade. Real name, Adrian Vale. Former elite contract assassin of Evergreen City, now incarcerated in Jackson. Ironcrest was getting crowded. Part 3, The Brain. It started with a tremor, then another, then a 70-foot steel robot tore through the side of a tech research facility downtown. News helicopters circled as the machine marched into the street, mechanical arms smashing vehicles aside. A voice boomed from external speakers, "Observe the future of cognition." Nightwolf leapt across rooftops toward the chaos. The robot's head resembled a metallic skull encased in glass. Inside the transparent dome, a human brain floated in illuminated fluid. Nightwolf landed atop the machine and pried open an access panel. Data screens inside identified the architect, Dr. Evelyn Kessler, renowned robotics pioneer, recently disgraced for unethical AI research. "You abandoned organic limitation," her voice echoed through the robot speakers. "I evolved." Nightwolf forced open a secondary hatch and dropped into the control chamber. Inside the cranial dome, he saw it clearly. Her brain, surgically removed, integrated into neural circuitry. "You gave up your body," he said. "I discarded weakness," she replied coldly. The robot swung violently, trying to shake him loose. Nightwolf embedded magnetic anchors into the control housing and overloaded the neural interface with a targeted EMP charge calibrated not to destroy but to disable. The machine froze mid-stride. Emergency power flickered. Nightwolf carefully extracted the containment module housing Dr. Kessler's brain and secured it in a portable stasis unit. Hours later, headlines exploded across every network. The brain, taken down by Nightwolf. Commentators debated ethics. Scientists argued philosophy, but the result was clear. Dr. Evelyn Kessler, now known as the Brain, was placed in specialized technological containment at Ironcrest Penitentiary, where Adrian Vale and Ethan Navarro and others now resided. Nightwolf stood atop a rooftop overlooking the city. Cheshire Cat, Red Mist, the Brain, Quick Shade, different methods, different motives, but too many high-level players appearing at once. Someone was pulling threads, and Ironcrest was becoming a vault of monsters. Below him, Jackson City glowed. The hunt wasn't slowing down, it was evolving. To be continued.
And now we're going on to number 5. And then we get number 6, which is a multi-part one.
Nightwolf Stories number 5 routine, 9:18 p.m. Midtown Jackson. It wasn't a mastermind. It wasn't a metahuman. It wasn't a chemical weapon or a theatrical psychopath. It was just a bank robbery. 3 masked men burst out of Midtown Trust Bank carrying duffel bags, shoving past panicked civilians. One fired a warning shot into the air. Move! Move! Their getaway car screeched around the corner and stalled. The driver slammed the wheel. Go, go! Why isn't it? Because the tires were flat. All 4 of them. Cleanly sliced. From the rooftop above, Nightwolf stepped into view. The robbers looked up. Aw, come on, one groaned. It's the dog guy. Nightwolf dropped from the roof. He landed between them in the car. Drop the bags. They didn't. The first robber charged with a shotgun. Nightwolf sidestepped, grabbed the barrel mid-swing, twisted. The weapon clattered across the pavement. A quick elbow to the ribs. Down. The second robber fired wildly with a handgun. Nightwolf rolled behind a parked car, then hurled a compact impact disc. It struck the shooter's wrist. The gun flew from his hand. Nightwolf closed the distance in 2 strides and drove him into the side of the vehicle hard enough to knock the fight out of him. The third robber tried to grab a civilian as a shield. That was a mistake. Nightwolf moved faster than the panic. He snatched the robber's arm, locked the elbow, and flipped him face first onto the pavement without harming the hostage. The last one bolted down the sidewalk. Nightwolf didn't chase immediately. He picked up one of the dropped duffel bags and hurled it with precision. It struck the runner in the back of the knees. He crashed hard. Seconds later, Nightwolf stood over all 4 men, zip restraints tightening around their wrists. Police sirens wailed in the distance. One robber groaned from the ground. Why do you even bother with stuff like this? He muttered. You fight assassins and robots and crazy metas. Nightwolf's voice was calm. Crime doesn't scale. The robber blinked. What? Small or large? Night continued, tightening the restraint. It still hurts someone. Police cruisers screeched to a halt around the scene. Officers stepped out, weapons drawn, then lowered them once they saw who was standing there. One officer shook his head. Just a regular robbery? Nightwolf gave a slight nod. No dramatic speeches, no cryptic warnings, just another night. He stepped back into the shadows as the robbers were hauled to their feet. As he climbed back to the rooftop, the city stretched out before him. Not every threat wore a costume. Not every night was a conspiracy. Sometimes, it was just about making sure people got home safe. Nightwolf disappeared into the darkness once more. To be continued.
And now number 6, which is 3 parts again. Part 1, Part 2, and Part 2.5.
Nightwolf Stories number 6, Lessons in the Dark.
Granny tried to call you.
Part 1, 8 Arms, 2 Heroes. A cargo ship docked at Jackson Harbor under heavy fog. On the side of the hull, painted in bright purple graffiti, was a symbol of an octopus. Inside the warehouse near the docks, a man in a ridiculous but armored octopus-themed suit paced back and forth. Mechanical tentacle appendages extended from a harness on his back, each tipped with gripping claws. He adjusted his helmet, complete with 8 glowing eye lenses. I told you, he barked at his crew. We move in 8s. 8 minutes inside. 8 hostages maximum. 8 crates only. Around him stood his gang, 8 low-level criminals. The Octopus 8, petty thieves with matching purple armbands. One of them whispered, "Why 8 crates? Because symmetry matters." The Octopus snapped. Suddenly, the warehouse lights flickered. A spark of electricity snapped across a steel beam overhead. Lightning Bug dropped from above in a crackle of blue-white energy. "Okay," the teenage hero said, looking around. "This is officially the weirdest theme night I've seen." The Octopus groaned. "Not you." A dark blur landed beside Lightning Bug. "Nightwolf." "You're done," Nightwolf said flatly. The Octopus activated his mechanical tentacles. They whipped outward with surprising force. 2 struck toward Lightning Bug. Tyler yelped and rolled aside, sending a controlled burst of electricity that shorted one tentacle mid-swing. Nightwolf moved through the remaining limbs like a shadow, slicing a cable here, smashing a joint there. The Octopus tried to coordinate his crew. "Formation 8! Formation 8!" The Octopus 8 charged clumsily. Lightning Bug grinned. "I've been waiting to try this." He slammed both hands into the ground. A wave of controlled electricity surged across the concrete floor, stunning the smaller criminals without causing lasting harm. Nightwolf disarmed the final tentacle with a crushing strike. The Octopus stumbled backward. "This isn't divisible," he shouted in frustration. Nightwolf grabbed him by the harness and slammed him into a stack of crates. "It is now." Minutes later, police hauled away the Octopus and his confused crew. Lightning Bug stood near the harbor railing, watching the flashing lights reflect on the water. "That was actually kind of fun," Tyler said. Nightwolf turned to him. "This isn't a game," Tyler blinked. "I know that." "No," Nightwolf said, voice low. "You don't." He stepped closer. "You're a kid. Criminals like him are harmless. Others aren't. They don't hesitate. They don't care how old you are." Lightning Bug's expression hardened slightly. "I can handle myself." Nightwolf's tone didn't change. "It's not about handling yourself. It's about what this life takes." Silence hung between them. "Give it up," Nightwolf said, "while you still can." Lightning Bug looked away toward the water. Nightwolf vanished into the night without another word. Tyler stood there long after he was gone. Part 2, Shockwave. 3 nights later, downtown Jackson shook as storefront windows shattered outward in a violent pulse. A man stood in the center of the street, wearing reinforced gauntlets glowing with kinetic energy. He slammed his fists together. Boom! A visible shockwave blasted outward, flipping a parked car onto its side. "I call this urban renewal," the man shouted. Shockwave. Real name, Derek Hallstrom, former demolition engineer, recently unemployed, now armed with stolen tech gloves capable of converting compressed air into concussive blasts. Nightwolf sprinted across rooftops and dropped behind him just as Shockwave launched another pulse. The shockwave rippled outward. Nightwolf anchored himself using magnetic grips embedded in his boots. He launched forward through the fading kinetic wave and tackled Shockwave before the next blast could fully charge. Shockwave snarled and fired a point-blank pulse. Nightwolf rolled with it, armor absorbing part of the impact but cracking slightly along the shoulder plate. He retaliated with a compact grappling line, binding Shockwave's wrists mid-charge. "Overcompensating," Nightwolf muttered as he tightened the restraints. Shockwave attempted one final blast. Nightwolf drove an EMP disruptor into the gauntlets. The energy fizzled out. Police arrived minutes later. Another villain down, another crack in Nightwolf's armor. Part 2.5? The upgrade back in his hidden workshop, Nightwolf removed his damaged shoulder plate. He studied the fracture line silently. Too many shock-based enemies lately. He accessed a blueprint projection. Suit version 3.2, adaptive reinforcement layer. He reinforced the armor with kinetic dispersion mesh beneath the plating, upgraded EMP resistance, enhanced thermal filters, improved grappling tensile strength. He paused briefly, then added one more adjustment. A compact short-range comm frequency tuned specifically to Lightning Bug's signal signature. He stared at it for a moment, then left it active. Nightwolf stepped back and looked at the upgraded suit mounted on the stand. Stronger, smarter, prepared. Because whether the kid listened or not, the city was escalating, and Nightwolf intended to survive it. To be continued.
And mom was using his Happy Meal to a advantage to get her a water bottle. I got me, mom got her her normal fries. from Burger King, Dad got him two plastic chicken sandwiches. And from McDonald's, I got me a large fry. I got me a meal, I did. So I got me my chicken sandwich, and then I got me the 10-piece nugget meal with a large fry. And, well, since we already had soda, I didn't want soda, but I wanted a drink. And Mom thought I was dehydrated, and that's why I had a headache last night. So I got me a water, and my headache kind of went away. So I probably have been dehydrated for the past couple of days. Yeah, since I don't drink that much water like I should.
Right.
But I'm starting to.
Well, that's good.
Mhm.
So tonight we have rinses.
You did?
Yeah, because we both wanted a fish meal.
Okay. How was it?
It was good. Paul's fish he said was crunchy.
That's the good fish.
Paul got catfish.
That's how catfish normally is.
I need that catfish fillet.
Hang on. What was his?
He got the whole catfish with the tail and stuff.
Was it like made? Like how did they cook it?
Try it.
Well, but no duh. It's crunchy.
But he said he had lots of bones in it tonight, so I don't know.
Who knows?
He said it was the whole catfish.
Oh, well, probably.
I got walleye.
Okay. How was it? Good.
It was good. I didn't eat it even here though.
Okay.
That's two stuff. That's two stuff because I got baked potato and green beans to go with it.
Okay. But like I said, most places, if you get the whole fish, some places do, but not most. Most don't debone the fish.
They don't debone the catfish for sure.
Exactly, especially if you get the whole thing.
Right.
Some places, if it has bones in it,
The thing I don't like about whole catfishes and stuff.
yes, is it has too much bones.
Because you gotta watch for the fucking bones.
Yeah.
But you know, it's lit, so he's Catholic, so we're supposed to celebrate that stuff, you know.
Mhm.
We're not supposed to have meat on Friday, you know.
Yeah.
Until after Ash Wednesday or whatever.
Yeah.
Until the Saturday before. I don't know. Till
Some-
after Easter.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Even though most Catholics I know don't follow that rule anyways.
Some do. Uncle Rick does, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, he does. I think so.
Yeah.
Like I said, some do, but a lot really don't, since they don't really understand that part.
Right.
Or they just don't care, they want to eat what they want to, you know.
The old Catholics do.
Yeah.
She called Uncle Matt yesterday because Uncle Matt texted him yesterday and he said I forgot it was your birthday, old man, or something. He said, so I'm a day late or something.
Mm.
So he just wanted to talk to him, and Matt was making fun of us because we told him we yell at the mailman. And Matt said, well, you know, he said the mailmen are supposed to go through. He said they're not supposed to walk down the sidewalk. He said they're supposed to cut through the yards to make up time.
Actually, I heard that's why they do that, actually.
He said, because that's what it was when he was a mailman. And then I told him that Grady yelled at the FedEx guy because he didn't knock on my door, and he said, oh, Grady, he said, now you guys ain't gonna get checked because you guys yelled at the mailman. He said, and then you ain't gonna get no packages because you guys yelled at the FedEx. He said, you guys are screwed all around.
Well, the FedEx is supposed to knock at the door.
Well, the FedEx guy told Grady all they got to do is deliver and take a picture.
Technically, they're also supposed to knock at your door.
Right.
Or at least that's what the ones around here do.
Right. And Grady said to him, he said, but don't you know what neighborhood we live in?
He's like, man, anything could get stolen around here. At least just knock on the door.
That's what he said. He said a friend's car there, so they're home.
Mm-hmm.
So Grady came over and knocked on my door and told me my package was here.
Okay.
It was my new shoes, which when I get my other shoes, if they fit better, I don't know. Because I ordered 8.5, which I shouldn't have.
Oh, okay.
But my feet always hurt, so
Yeah.
and swell. So that's why I got a bigger size.
Maybe the bigger size will help.
I don't know. They kept coming in Velcro today.
That's why I hate about Velcro shoes. Like, they are good since you don't have to do that much time like you do with tying your shoes if you have shoelaces, you know?
Right.
But they suck when they keep coming, like, constantly unvelcroed.
But I didn't realize these were soft shoes, like water shoes almost.
Ah.
They're comfortable. It's just they really don't have that much support to